Live from the Scripps Studios, this is 10 News.
This is the freshman from San Diego State who was injured and later died following a fraternity event. Good evening. I'm Steve Atkinson.
And I'm Lindsay Pena. Dylan Hernandez died yesterday, 3 days after University police received a 911 call regarding a student in need of medical attention. 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala is joining us. And Mimi, all 14 fraternities have been suspended, but the school isn't saying much about what caused the student's death.
Yeah, Lindsay, Steve, school officials and the medical examiner have not released the cause of death, but friends of 19-year-old Dylan Hernandez tell us that he actually fell off of his dorm room bed in that building right over there and hit his head Wednesday night.
He had fallen off of his bunk bed, about like a 6-foot drop, and we later found out that he fractured his skull from that fall, but none of us knew at the time.
Ciara's story says 19-year-old Dylan Hernandez was then put back into his dorm room bed after that fall on Wednesday night. The next morning, Story says she went back to check on him after getting a call from his roommate.
He was on his bed, he was foaming at the mouth, and his lips were purple and his ears and his skin was yellow.
911 was called and Story performed CPR until medics arrived. Monday, SDSU President Adela de la Torre said in a statement the Hernandez family said their goodbyes to Dylan Sunday night. The mood on campus somber Monday as word of his death had spread.
I can definitely see that people here are just a little bit more down than normal. I mean, it's always sad to lose a student.
The school has not released any information about his cause of death, but said he was attending a frat event Wednesday and in response suspended 14 fraternities as they investigate. Students on campus tell us Hernandez was pledging Phi Gamma Delta, better known as Fiji. The school has not confirmed that.
We've got to hold accountable the responsible parties, and it's ultimately not the students, it's the adults.
Although the school has not said if alcohol was a factor in his death, education attorney Bob Ottley says in the past fraternities have found themselves in trouble for that reason. He says more colleges need to be proactive when it comes to ensuring the safety of all students.
What we need to do out of this scenario, however it turns out, is to get the California State University system and the regents who operate the University of California to ban alcohol, first in all fraternities, just like it is in sororities.
And the school is providing counseling services to students who may be impacted by this. A GoFundMe page to help out Hernandez's family has also been set up. So far, it's gained more than $19,000 in donations. If you'd like to help out, we do have a link to that on our website, 10news.com. Live from SDSU, Mimi Alcala, 10 News.
Thank you, Mimi. And people with the 10 News app were notified about the student's death. It's free to download and you can find it in the App Store.
Evacuations have been lifted after a gas leak this afternoon in City Heights. Fire crews had part of University Avenue shut down while crews worked to fix that leak. SDG&E tells us the contractor hit a gas line just after 1:30, and at least 2 units at a nearby complex they had to be evacuated. 7 people and 2 dogs had to get out. Fortunately, it only took about 15 minutes to shut off the leak. People are allowed back in their apartments right now. And while crews were on the way back from that gas leak, they spotted a fire burning in this storm channel. It runs under the 15 near the 94. Firefighters do believe that the fire started at a homeless camp that was inside the tunnel. They pulled out the 2 burned up mattresses. The tunnel was also filled with other trash and graffiti. We're told that no one was hurt.
Well, dozens of officers in San Diego County have been convicted of crimes, and some are still on the job. That's according to a new investigation by several newsrooms across the state.
Our investigative reporter Jennifer Kastner has been pouring through the database, and Jen, they've been convicted of some pretty serious crimes.
Yeah, Steve, that's right, like sexual assault, also DUI. This is the database. It's on the website for the Voice of San Diego. You can organize it by counties. If you go down to San Diego, you're going to pull up a list of 28 officers convicted of crimes, and yes, some of them are still working in law enforcement.
These are just a few of the many local cases of convicted cops. Former SDPD Sergeant Oscar Armenta, who pleaded guilty to attacking his girlfriend but didn't get any jail time. Former SDPD Officer Anthony Arevalos, convicted of groping women and trying to elicit sexual favors during traffic stops. Married ex-SDPD officers Bryce and Jennifer Charpentier admitted to stealing and taking prescription drugs while on the clock. Other officers like Karen Almos and Jeffrey Blackford got DUIs and are reportedly still working for SDPD, according to this massive database of convicted law enforcement officers, a collaboration from several news organizations, including The Voice of San Diego, which was coordinated by the investigative reporting program at UC Berkeley and the Bay Area News Group. The project was born after an open records request last year shed light on a list accidentally released that came from the California Commission of Peace Officers Standards and Training, or POST, which revealed close to 12,000 state officers and applicants who've been found guilty of various offenses. According to the database, of the more than 24 convicted San Diego County officers, the majority, 17, were from San Diego Police Department. 6 were from the San Diego County Sheriff's Department, 2 from Chula Vista Police, 1 from Oceanside PD, another from Carlsbad PD, and also 1 from San Diego City Schools Police.
This afternoon, SDPD confirmed with 10 News that they told The Voice of San Diego this in part, quote, "Cops make mistakes like everyone else, and local jurisdictions should be able to determine for themselves whether that person is worthy of continuing to carry a badge." In the newsroom tonight, Jennifer Kastner, 10 News.
Jen, thank you. Now to a developing story. Public hearings start this week in President Trump's impeachment probe.
As ABC's Inez de la Cutara explains, fresh fights are emerging over who should be allowed to testify.
President Trump marking Veterans Day this morning, but still blasting the House impeachment inquiry on Twitter as Washington braces for the first public hearings. The first witnesses to appear will be Bill Taylor and George Kent on Wednesday and Marie Yovanovitch on Friday. All are expected to detail their concerns that undue pressure was being applied to Ukraine's new president for him to investigate Trump's political opponents.
Well, I hope everyone who testifies will go do so truthfully, accurately.
Over the weekend, Republicans released a list of witnesses they would like to bring in, which includes Hunter Biden and the anonymous whistleblower whose complaint triggered the impeachment inquiry.
It's impossible to bring this case forward, in my view, fairly without us knowing who the whistleblower is and having a chance to cross-examine them.
Democrats who are in charge of the hearing say that's not going to happen, as it would only put the whistleblower's safety at risk. And they're warning the hearings, quote, will not serve as vehicles for any member to carry out the same sham investigations into the Bidens. Ahead of the hearings, Republicans are rolling out a new strategy to defend the president's dealings with Ukraine.
I believe it was inappropriate. I do not believe it was impeachable.
While some Democrats are now describing the president's actions as bribery, which the Constitution does list as an impeachable offense.
The Constitution's very clear: treason, bribery, or acts of omission. And in this case, it is clearly one of those.
And the Washington Post is now reporting that acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney is trying to join a lawsuit that was filed by another key witness, Charles Kupperman. That suit could determine whether top White House officials who have defied their congressional subpoenas will be forced to testify. Inez de la Cutera, ABC News, Washington.
You can watch the impeachment hearings live on ABC 10 starting Wednesday at 7 a.m. That's right after 10 News at 6 a.m.
A terrifying landing for dozens of passengers arriving in Chicago during the first bad winter storm of the season. The plane hit a patch of ice and began skidding off the runway, and one of the passengers recorded from inside the plane. It finally bumped to a stop. From outside the plane, though, you can get a better look at just how bad those conditions were at the time.
There was no visibility at all. You know, the first visibility of the city, we got it when we're like maybe 50 feet from the ground. I mean, that's dangerous, and you don't need to do that.
American Airlines says that no one was hurt. More than 1,000 flights have been canceled in and out of Chicago so far today.
Amazing pilots to be able to land in conditions like that. You can see the conditions there, still very cold. Minneapolis 11, Chicago 19 degrees, and now officially below zero in Bismarck. Here in San Diego, 64 degrees. They're still expecting about 3 additional inches of snow, blustery conditions stretching all the way back to New York. And this, of course, is going to spread that cold air all the way south. Let's get back home. High pressure is going to keep us dry, and we're getting ready for offshore winds, Santa Ana winds for tomorrow, elevated fire danger, and even the possibility of low visibility overnight and into tomorrow. I'll have more on that in your 7-day forecast.
All right, thanks, Angelica. People across San Diego County took time to celebrate the men and women who serve our country.
And our 10 News reporter Rachel Bianco is live on Mount Soledad, where an especially moving ceremony just wrapped up tonight. Rachel.
Hi, Steve and Lindsay. There are still some families here reading the plaques and learning more about the men and women who have sacrificed so much. And tonight, the face of a new hero is on the wall.
Happy Veterans Day!
Tens of thousands of people lined Harbor Drive for the 33rd annual San Diego Veterans Day Parade. This year's theme honors Vietnam vets. A way to salute and say thank you, a sharp contrast from the welcome they got when they came home from combat.
We can fight. God bless the USA.
In Mira Mesa, people gathered at the Senior Center to pay tribute to those who have served. The Missing Man Formation, always a highlight atop Mount Soledad on Veterans Day. This year's event honors Chief Petty Officer Kenton Stacy. The Navy technician was clearing IEDs from a hospital in Syria 2 years ago when a bomb blew up. The father of four was just 3 weeks shy of going home.
Usually EOD techs, it's either, they're killed instantly on the spot or they lose limbs. This never, ever would have crossed my mind.
Stacy survived but was paralyzed from the chest down, blinded in one eye, and lost part of his trachea, making him unable to speak.
We have our good days and bad. Today's a good day.
A plaque honoring Chief Stacy will now join the 5,200 others already on these walls.
Just remember the sacrifice that my husband's made and that all of our military members make on a daily basis.
And Chief Stacy has received several awards for his service, including the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star. Reporting live on Mount Soledad, Rachel Bianco, 10 News.
And this Veterans Day marks a first for several cities celebrating nationwide. In New York City, President Trump spoke at the New York City Veterans Day Parade. He's the first president to ever attend that event. Los Angeles County held its inaugural Veterans Day LA to honor Southern Californians who have served in the military. And in Washington, D.C., Vice President Mike Pence and Defense Secretary Mark Esper laid the wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier.